Thanks for joining us as we are going to be looking at web tools for creative formative assessments. And I put the tiny URL on that slide deck, and the link will be in the chat window as well. Please know, as we're working through this, you are invited to off-road and explore with blessing. If we were all together in Minneapolis, we would be doing that same thing and sharing with each other what we're getting into. So please know that you are welcome to do that as well. Additionally, you are welcome to make a copy of this presentation, and I hope that it's useful to you. And with that, let's continue. So first, let's continue our conversation, our dialogue. If you could also add into the chat window your name, your school and your grade level, and what you teach, that would be fantastic. If you would like to collaborate going forward, you can include your email address on that, and or you don't have to, but you could. And I'll just give everybody a moment. And while you're hopefully adding your name, school and grade level, and subjects taught, please also remember, as we're going through today, ask questions if you have them, if they come up, ask for clarifications, those kinds of things. Additionally, in the presenter's notes, one of the reasons that I like to provide the presentation for you is in the presenter's notes, after each slide, is usually a series of links, or at least one link, that will give you more information, or a tutorial, or maybe an example, or there's text that gives you an idea for how you might be able to use that particular resource. So the presenter notes are rich with resources, and I wanted to make sure we mention that. Okay, so looks like we have at least 18 points. Hey, this is fantastic. I'm just looking at the chat. We have Roseville and a couple of people from Laverne and Princeton. That's fantastic. A couple of people from Princeton. That's great. Monticello, we have Henry High School. It looks like some groups of people came together. Maybe that's awesome. And so Owatonna, great. Benjamin Mays in St. Paul. My little guy is in St. Paul too. St. Peter Claver, welcome back. You're just up the street from where I'm sitting right now. We have some great places and a good variety of age groups that we're working with. That's awesome. Please know, I see some elementary as well as upper school. As we get into this, a lot of our tools that we're going to be looking at today do not require an account, which is really important to remember for when we're working with our students who are 12 and under. So with that, let's continue. We know in class that formative assessment is pretty straightforward to gather that data when we're in that traditional class setting, like what we might see in our left-hand side of our screen. You know, the kiddos might get a Post-it note and stick it on the wall as they're leaving, or quick thumbs up, thumbs down. Some of those things transfer well into our virtual world, as we had 100,000 schools plus close in the spring, and we know that we had millions of students that were out of their normal learning environments, and a lot of us were just trying to hang on. During that time, it's really also important to remember that as we're going through, one of the big things that is especially useful and important to include in digital teaching is not only self-assessment for the students to be able to check how their own progress is going, but also formative assessment, so that we know we're not just trying to make a one-size-fits-all, and we are still checking in with our students as we go. So in a traditional learning session, and I picked a 40-minute example in the presenter's notes, you'll see a link to this information, and there are some other times of length of excuse me, classes as well. If we look at the time of where our retention is the highest, it's not right away and it's not at the end, it's kind of waning. So it's nice if we can capitalize on those two times and really help our brains re-engage and take a benefit of what's called the Primacy Recency effect, and put in those formative assessments at the beginning and end of class time. The beginning could be something from yesterday's class, a callback, or the homework last night, or a reading that was done for class. At the end, it could be something hopefully about the lesson or things that they've engaged in learning during the course of class. So good times to do that. All right, I need to move, there we go, move my little group. So some of the more traditional formative assessment resources that we have access to. Flipgrid is extremely popular. I'm guessing many of you are familiar with it. It started at the University of Minnesota and was later purchased. It became its own independent company and then later purchased by Microsoft not too long ago. And that allows the teacher to leave a video prompt or a text prompt, and students can click and record their messages back as video. And those are especially good for capturing quick responses to readings or something like that. Active prompt is one that's kind of a new one on the block. And it's an interesting concept. It works off of an image and a prompt that the teacher uploads. So the teacher can put in apply for a free account, and then you can upload an image and the students will get these little dots, and based on the prompt they can move the dots. So it's especially helpful for things like math concepts or mapping or those kinds of things that really relate to an image or maybe locations. And so that's kind of an interesting one if you'd like to play with something new. And not a lot of people have heard of active prompts. That's kind of fun. Socrative is another one of those that's kind of the first device-based replacement for the clickers. And that really opened the gates for people to let go of those really expensive packages of all those clickers. And it allows you to put in different kinds of questions and gather quick data. And Kahoot and quizzes, those two, many people have used Kahoot. And that's a nice quiz-based tool. These are, again, more of those formal, more traditional formal assessment or formative assessments. And Nearpod and Pear Deck also, those deliver content to a device in a slideshow type form, and you can insert quiz type features so you can gather that quick data. Obviously, those are for all of us to use. We are going to be exploring a few things that maybe people might not think of to use as creative formative assessments, and especially in the digital arena. Okay. Oh, one more nod. Plickers is a fun one if you're in person. And so if we can do our blended learning or hybrid learning or whatever it is we're going to do in the fall, if we actually see people in person, it allows you to print out cards for students. Cardstock is encouraged, and then the teacher can take their device, either their cell phone or their iPad, and they can scan the room, and it'll treat it almost like a QR code for students, and you can gather some quick formative data. The formative assessment tools, one of the first ones that is a little bit more traditional but can be used creatively would be something like Mentimeter. And Mentimeter allows you, for what I like is the unlimited audience size. So you could do this even if you're designing professional development for your faculty. And some of these types of response tools have limited, in the free versions, they have limited audience size. So always watch that, because it's never fun if it allows 50 people and you're 54 in your faculty and then somebody gets left out. That's a bummer. But Mentimeter allows you to ask a variety of questions, and you can ask multiple choice or short answer or something like that. And then they would either go to menti.com and put in a code, or you could give them a link to go to as well, or scan a QR code. And I like to ask my students a quick prompt, and then it shows up on the screen as just their answer. It could show up as a word cloud. It could hide the responses until you would like. And so we can do one by one. We could do a flow grid. It could rotate the answers. It's kind of a neat thing if you're coming into class to ask that question and have people see responses grow. So Mentimeter is a neat one for gathering those quick responses. And it allows you then to see your classes. Another way I like to, as we're getting into the creative side of things, we have to think about how can we collect this stuff. One of the ways that I like to collect them is using digital exit tickets and Google Forms. And especially if it's something that can be captured with a URL, I love to use a Google Form for that, because then I can have a spreadsheet, and you can see over on the right, when I'm grading, I highlight the student's name in green so that I kind of remember who's I've graded, and then I have all the links to one assignment right there, timestamps, love it, super quick, easy peasy for the teacher to access. Another fantastic way to capture those creative tools is with an open Google Slides deck. And so if you make sure that you set either anyone at your institution can edit, or even wider to save time for the littles maybe who don't have an account, or just make it faster for everybody, you can make anyone with the link can edit, which we did, and you'll get to do that in just a second with us. And then I invite my students to add a slide and then their screenshots or their text or whatever it is to a slide. And we do have to talk a little bit about, be respectful of other people's slides, but that tends to go really well. Okay, so we are going to start with our, here we go, Padlet. So if you could please go to the URL, tinyurl.com/bpformative20a. See if I can throw that into the chat. Let me see if I can do that really quick for us. bpformative20a. Here we go. And you can add, the question is, what is your favorite way to hold a formative assessment? So tinyurl.com/bpformative20a. There you go. You can copy that and go to the link. That'd be great. And so we're asking your favorite formative assessment approach. Could be digital, could be not, could be a web tool. So let's see if we go to our Padlet, what we are getting for our favorite. I'm asking you to offer out a little bit with me. So you should just be able to, oh, we have a Jamboard, nice. A Google Jamboard. What else do we have? Oh, a Padlet. In person, yeah, interactive strategies, you got it, Jamboard. Oh, we're switching out. I like the Google Forms quite a lot too. That's okay. Okay, so if you haven't used a Padlet before, when you get to Padlet, you just double click on it and it allows you to put up a little post and you can just type right into the box and we'll all be able to share it. Google Forms, more interactive. Yes, I agree. Something that I don't know if everyone's tried yet or not, but Google Forms do allow for branching. And so based on an answer, you could have it go to a different part of the form. That's kind of a nice piece as far as making them a little bit more responsive at least. So that's a fun one. We have a lot of, hey, we have somebody who already uses Mentimeter. That's awesome. There we go. And we will definitely get some new ideas. Okay, so Padlet, that's one quick way to do a formative assessment, just kind of a check-in. And we'll come back to our Padlet. I'm going to leave that up. But in the interest of time and making sure we can share more ideas, I'm going to continue our slides and see how we do. So Padlet allows you to create a digital bulletin board, and that is a quick and easy way. One of the best things about it is that you don't need to have your students have an account. Super helpful in that regard. And so they can simply participate and quickly leave their answers. Very useful if you're in a digital setting or if people have a device. As we get into our virtual tools that are hopefully helpful for people, please know that it's extremely helpful to give our students images and audio and video that's free and copyright friendly. So things like Unsplash. Unsplash is amazing. If you haven't played around with it, let's just check out Unsplash really quick. If we needed to say, let's have a celebration, because we're so excited to be here and we wanted to have a party, yay, look at all these celebration things. And so they could easily pick a celebration picture, and all of the pictures in Unsplash are free and beautiful, and it's just a matter of finding what you like and what the students like. And so doing things like that and helping the students find those resources and know that they're available is extremely helpful. Okay, one of my favorite formative assessments, and I mentioned this, was with Canva. And Canva is a extremely robust tool that has poster generators and postcard makers and badge makers. It has so many different things. You can do a lot of things with Canva. Super cool about Canva. Yes, you need an account, but if you look at their user agreement, if you are doing things with the supervision of a teacher, it is totally acceptable use for students K-12 to use it. So we can use it with even our youngest of students. This particular postcard was made by a junior in high school, and they had never seen Canva before. When I threw this out to them, we had 10 minutes left in class. They needed to, and I did give them a collection of photos and said, here are a bunch of photo collections from Prohibition, so pick a picture that speaks to you. And we just finished an entire class period looking at different aspects of Prohibition. And I asked them to list 2 facts that were new to them, the date of Prohibition, and then an image that spoke to them. And so within those 10 minutes, they had signed up for Canva, created their postcard, taken a screenshot, and put it into a Google slide deck, which was super cool. And so it was extremely low floor, high ceiling. They were able to get in there and do things quickly. Obviously, sometimes tools take a couple more minutes than, say, 10 to get to know. But once students know them and they've been used often enough, then the entrance time to get in and use them is much lower. Timelines are fantastic. This one is a freetimeline.com. Google Drawings would also be another, and you can see the link over here, free timeline. Google Drawings would also be another way to create a nice timeline. It could be, the timelines don't have to be really long. Perhaps you've been doing something that focuses on a small time period or a sequence of events, doesn't even have dates. And so students could easily create the timeline. On this particular one, it also, you'll notice it says import CSV files. CSV files are spreadsheet files, comma support value is CSV. And so if you have a spreadsheet of dates, you can bring them into free timeline. You can also, they have a mobile and a tablet version, which is super helpful. And so, and if you haven't played with Google Drawings or even Google Slides, those would also be great to make some timelines. So timelines are fun, and we will have time to play. Okay. Audio. Vocaroo is a fantastic tool for students to capture their thinking, and it is totally free. It allows you to, it's a very simple, when you go to vocaroo.com, there's a nice button and you click the button and it will record your audio. When it's finished, you can save it with a URL, and that URL is important to know. That URL will stay live for probably 4 to 5 months safely. So if you really like a student's response, it's a good idea to download that. And you can also download the files as MP3s. So they can be saved as examples or in your folder or whatever you'd like. If you'd like to go back to them further out than 4 months, then you want to make sure you capture those with Vocaroo. There are a couple of other tools that are really user-friendly. The online voice recorder is almost as easy as Vocaroo. To give you an idea of that one, and there is also a video recorder that the same company makes that looks very similar. And so you simply click this button and you record. And so it does have a few more, without any account needed, it has a few more editing kinds of things. And so that could be super helpful depending upon what you're interested in doing. Synth is the new kid on the block of the 3, and it is really trying to encourage students to make podcasts that are short. Kind of think of it as the Twitter of podcasting. You get 256 seconds at most to record your audio. And so Synth is a pretty cool tool just to check out. And I'm going to peek at our chat, I think. Here we go. Oh yes, and thank you. Brenda says Padlet now lets you do voice recording right on it as well. So yes, you can capture that audio. Thank you for adding that. See, it takes a village and I love it. So fantastic. If you have ideas and things, just put them in the chat. That's great. Okay, so video. Alice Keeler's webcam record is kind of an interesting tool. Alice Keeler has a lot of time on her hands, I guess, or she just makes time. She's amazing. She codes all these different little add-ons and things for Google. And so this one, you can add video right into a slide deck. So students, it's kind of like a Flipgrid in a way, except it works right with Google Slides. And also fun to do quick video is Adobe Spark video. So if you wanted to have students make a really quick little advertisement or something along those lines, Adobe Spark video would be a fantastic one. And I'd like you to be thinking about these as we go. Where might they fit in your curriculum? What might you be able to do with these kinds of tools? Where's something that you maybe wish things were just a little bit more engaging for the students or exciting? Word clouds are one of my favorites. I love to use them not just for formative assessments. I love to use them to analyze things like speeches or to compare different texts, but they're also fantastic for formative assessments. You could ask a student to submit their own word cloud. You could ask them to contribute in a Google form, list 5 words, and then you take all the responses and put them into a word cloud. You could have students work in teams and then put those word clouds on a shared slide deck. The trick about word clouds is to find the generator that works best for you. Depending upon your setting for the browser, some work better than others. Wordle is kind of the grandpappy of all of them, and sometimes doesn't work with different browsers. So, or needs Flash or whatever. Tuxedo has been my favorite lately, as has WordArt. And you can set the designs so that they fill in different designs instead of just words. If you wanted them to be a heart or a music note or the outline of a person, you can upload an image and then it'll turn it into words. So word clouds can be quite fantastic. All right, and I would like to stay like that so that I can see our chat. What word cloud generator do I recommend for Google Slides within Google Classroom? There's one by Jason. It's Jason something. It's an add-on, I believe, for Google Slides, and I believe Jason is in the name. And I will look for it when we get to the end of our time together. So I will not lose that, okay? It might be Jason Davies. If he has a word cloud generator, then yes, there's one that works really well in the slides too. I'll double check though. Okay. All right, friends, we have gotten to one of my most favorite resources. It's Big Huge Labs. And I don't know if any of you have used Big Huge Labs before, but it is fantastic when you talk about working with images. And I think to be able to tell a story with images is incredibly powerful. And so Big Huge Labs is no account required. You can create your poster or whatever it is that you would like to do. And in this example over on the side, it is a one of those successory type motivational posters, and you can have it be landscape or portrait. And one example that I had my students do after they were learning about Winston Churchill was to find a quote of his and a statement about him and a favorite image of Churchill. And again, they made them incredibly quickly because you simply type in your title, you type in what you want to have show up, you can pick your color, you have a little bit of option as far as what you want the design to look like on the sides, and you click create and it's done. So again, it is super low floor, very high ceiling, mind-blowing flexibility and fun. Students love the professional look of those. A couple other poster generators, if you wanted to go a little bit more robust, the Canva has beautiful, beautiful posters that it makes, as does Adobe Spark. And so I linked to those as well. And again, the Adobe Spark, the reason it has 2 pegs there, 2 little asterisks, is because it allows students of any age to have under their teacher's umbrella a free education account. And so the teacher can sign up for those, and it works incredibly well. So beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I like the simplicity of Big Huge Labs. I'm not gonna try to mask that. I think it's great. Okay. Another type of poster would be a movie poster. And think about making a movie poster for a book they just read, or for a math concept, or a science experiment that they just did, or an event that happened in history, or the best play they've ever seen, turn it into a film. The this one is from the little picture here is Big Huge Labs, and you can pick how many lines you would like to have on your, yes, Canva does. Thank you, Angela. Canva has educational accounts too and does integrate with Google Classroom. So that's another fantastic tool. And I don't know that I included Canva on this. I did not include Canva, but Canva does have definite poster generators as well, and movie poster. These two, Poster My Wall. The other one, it doesn't have any accounts required, and you can use the themes of actual posters, themes of actual posters that are out there, and then you can modify them to your heart's content, and then take a screenshot of your work. It's a fun one. Okay, ID cards. You can do an awful lot of different things with ID cards. And so I just listed a few of the things that you could possibly make ID cards for. The example here is similar to what I would have my students do when they were studying US history at the turn of the century. And we were looking at progressives and entrepreneurs and business people and so forth. And they had so much fun because, you know, I encouraged them to come up with a little statement that they might have. And so a bunch of them came up with James J. Hill, tough as rails, because he was the big railroad entrepreneur. And so you can decide how you want your ID card to look. This one was created with another Big Huge Labs tool, but Canva again is amazing, and Adobe Spark is also amazing. And they have a bunch of different types of ID cards. And again, with Canva, you would have the Google Classroom interaction. So that would be a ton of fun there as well. Trading cards are something that can be really fun if you have an event or a book or something that has a lot of different concepts and moving parts. If the students are together, they could physically print them and trade them. If they are digital, they could easily share them. You could put together a collection. You could have, if you had the Axis and the Allies, for example. I know I fell back in social studies, but that's what happens when I've taught social studies for 24 years. And so, you know, you could have characters in a book that all have their trading cards that come together, all those kinds of activities. That's our imagination. What can we have our students do? What can their imaginations do? And how can we capture those concepts? You know, what three things stood out to you in the chapter last night? Make a trading card for that chapter. And then in that first 5 minutes, they could put in a quick picture and then three things, and they're done. So again, no account required, super quick. Get in, get out. You could collect them easily, either with a link to the image or with a copy of the image and paste it into a slide deck. Okay, I admit you might have to teach them what a telegram is, okay, but they might have fun with them. And so there are two different Telegram resources here. One is this slide deck. It's just a template for Google Slides, and they can put their text in their message. What would their message be? If you had to send a telegram of an emergency thing that just happened in this, what's the most important thing you would send out? What do people need to know? Be a quick one, quick telegram. The Telegram stuff also allows you, it's an actual place that you could purchase the Telegram. I was so surprised when I found this one, but it could be really fun to use. And so you could have your students do that and then take a screenshot of their Telegram as well. Or you can go with the Google Slides. Magazine covers are very similar in that regard to movie posters. And so again, I'm going to highlight Adobe Spark. Canva would also have magazine covers, and Big Huge Labs has its own magazine cover. Something to note on the Big Huge Labs piece, you can see in the little image here, it has up to 11 lines. Students do not have to fill in all of those lines. You could say, I want the 3 key things that stood out to you, and they could have 3 lines, and they could pick which lines they were, and then the rest of them are simply blank, and they can put in their own image. We also have magazine cover templates. This one is fun because it has things like time and people. And so if you wanted to highlight something specific that would fit into that person of the year kind of thing, it would work well there too. As far as magazine covers go, if you're in Google's environment, linked to this, I did not make either of or any of these 3 templates, and so you will see credits to the people who did, because they created them and said share. So we're sharing and giving you the credits for those. So National Geographic Time, and the Time magazine is a lot of the magazine or it's just the covers. So you can kind of pick how much. And you could easily say, you know, students go through and pick one magazine article in this template and complete that one article and then take a screenshot of your work. So that would be an option there too. It wouldn't have to be the whole magazine. That'd be more of a project as opposed to a quick formative assessment. Okay, we're getting down there in our stuff, so I hope you're planning on time to play, because I'm gonna ask you to try to create something in just a couple minutes. Memes are kind of an interesting one. We have to remind our students about the fact that they need to be not just witty, but content driven. And so there are some meme generators here, and in the notes section, you'll find a couple ideas and examples of lessons involving memes. And so some people's humor lends itself better to the meme than others, but it's kind of your call. The headline news piece can be kind of a fun one, and it can kind of mess with people depending upon how it gets used, just because some of these look incredibly real. But on these, you would upload an image. It would go in the background then, and you can change the headlines that say something went viral, and you can check that out. Sorry, I got distracted. We had a sound. Just making sure I didn't miss anything in the chat. Okay. Also, this one is a quick newspaper generator. The headline story news generator, all it does is super small headline in the start of the text, but it's nice if you just want to get a few sentences out. And so I like to do this at the end of a lesson. I used to do this at the end of our Lowell Cotton Gin lesson, and they would do an update, an article that would be introducing what they learned about Lowell. And the students always thought it looked really cool how it started, and they would get a little lead into their headlines and their titles and so forth. Okay, so advertisements, we're all very familiar with advertisements and what they might do. Poster My Wall is just free and online, as is Image Chef. Billboards would be a really quick, big advertisement. Poster My Wall is a little bit more along those poster concepts. And so another option would be to have them use something like Adobe Spark to create a logo for something, and that logo would need to demonstrate their understanding of a concept, and what they incorporate into the logo would show you how they're doing on understanding information. Classified ads are becoming almost going the way of the Telegram, but they can be kind of fun. So I included those there as well. You could put in an ad for a particular concept that they've been studying. And again, the content that they put in can definitely demonstrate to you how they're tracking. Captions are fun for that same reason, and you can easily upload your picture and put in captions. So the ad text is incredibly straightforward for that. However, just as easy would be Google Slides or Google Drawings for captions. This particular one, it's kind of an interesting one. I wouldn't use it with younger students though, because we can't control, this one allows you to do captions on videos, and we cannot control the videos that show up in this little box here. And so some of them are a little, well, I've seen a couple that I wouldn't want my younger students to see, just because of age appropriateness, and my high school students would laugh and move on. So I just wanted that one to be shared and make a note, is we still need to vet what we're doing and make sure that we're comfortable with them, whatever they might be. And here's a great example of a call out. And so if you went into insert and shape and then select call out, and that would be for both Google Drawings and Google Slides, and you can put in a thought bubble, you could put in a caption. So the call outs would be really helpful as well. Sign generators are fantastic, but this is another one where I would pick maybe 3 or 4 of the generators. Maybe I would pick the Cat in the Hat and Snoopy and a Blackberry, or I would pick the fortune cookie and the something else. I wouldn't give them this whole thing. I would only link to the ones that I specifically want. I'm giving you the link to this one because then you can pick the ones that you want. And I would suggest that the Absolute Bottle is not one of them. So, but the Snoopy would be fantastic. So if you go to, it's Red Kid Sign Generators, then you can click on Snoopy and it just takes you straight to the Snoopy generator. So I hope that makes sense. And that's fun because they can make almost like a meme, they could make a sign. Invitations, invite people to read a book. Why should they read the book that they just read? Why should they read the chapter they just read? Why should they go to the place that they just studied? Why should they listen to the piece of music that they just heard? What is it about this composer that stands out to them? Invite people to do something. And again, encourage your students have, 2 specific things that you learned that is reflected in this invitation, something along those lines, or 3, or whatever you would like to have them do for that. Included in the invitations, we have some Google options. We even have a Word option if that's better for your environment. Okay, and now we're in the home stretch, and then we're gonna have a few minutes for you to play, and I'm excited about that. Emojis are a fun one, and Get Emojis is a fantastic resource in that it just has a ton of emojis right at our fingertips, and so we can easily copy and paste them. I know that when my 2nd grader last year was asked to do his check-in, they used emoji check-ins all the time as far as how they were feeling. But we could easily do that as far as how we're doing with content as well. And I linked to an example with math. But I would also say that we could use these on a shared Google slide deck or a slide that a student makes and sends to us. Roll the dice is a very fun one in that we can control what questions we would want. You'd want to think of 6 questions, and I gave you a series of examples here. And you can have the student, I was thinking, if we're virtual, you don't have physical dice, so what do we do? And so I linked here to a virtual die or a site that has 2 dice. So if you want to have more than 6 questions, you can do 12 or whatever. Or you could have them pick a 5-sided dice, I suppose, but 6 is usually the standard. And so anyway, the student could roll the virtual dice, and whatever number comes up, they answer that question. And so each student could have their own slide on a shared deck. And maybe you've made the template so that it has those 6 and they just pick the one that's there, but you would get a different question based on the random roll of the dice for the different students. It's kind of fun to do that. Or the teacher could roll the dice and say, okay, a 3 came up, and then people do the 3 answer. So the concept is there. Digital 4 corners, think about our 4 corners that we might say, if you strongly agree, if you strongly disagree, you agree, or you're on the fence, or whatever your concepts are that you want to address in your classroom. You can create a Google slide that has those. And then one way would be to put your little emojis here that they could just drag over to where they are. Or you could have them actually put their name next to an icon and slide the icons. You could do it name coordinated, or you could do it anonymously. Either way, if you had 20 students, you could put their 20 little emojis down here, and they could just drag like 20 smiley faces or 20 dots or something like that. They could drag. So we could have a digital 4 corners exercise. I also linked here to the Noun Project. If that is new to you, this is a fantastic resource. It's worth a moment to off-road for a minute. If I wanted to say, let's say I wanted a bell for something, icons for everything, they really are. We could find all sorts of different bells, and even without an account, I can use any of these black and white icons and just cite the Noun Project for them. And you can download it, and there's our little citation there that we can include. Or if you sign up for an educator's account, that would be something that you'd pay for. Otherwise, you've noticed everything that we've talked about is free today. Free is something we can all afford. I love free. But they do have, Noun Project does have a lower price educator's account, and that's totally worth it. So that's there. And then you can change the colors of your icons. And you're welcome. I'm glad we're giving people, I'm seeing some ideas to people, and that's great. Another one is, and if you think of other ways to do this, when we get into, in about 2 minutes or 3 minutes, when we get into our, you get to play around for a few minutes, and we're gonna come back together at the end and hopefully share out. I hope you kind of brainstorm some of the ways, some of your favorite things that you move kids. How might you be able to turn that into a slide activity? They could still move their ideas and they're still engaging with you, because that engagement is critical, especially when we're in the virtual environment. We want to be connected and engage in that content discussion together. Exploration. Okay, so text messages, that'd be another way that you could have different characters talk to each other. I included a couple links to a couple different ones. It could be a correct or incorrect answer, then they don't actually text. It's kind of up to you. Some people like to do the 2 roses and a thorn, 2 things that were great and 1 thing you're kind of sticky on, or something like that. 2 stars and a wish. I wish I were a little stronger with this, but I'm feeling really good about those. Those would be my bright, shiny stars. I included some just Google templates for you on those, and students could easily pick one of those and answer it, either share it with you or put it into a full slide deck if they wanted to make a copy and add their own slides. A social media post, the tweet gen is, in my opinion, better than Twister, but Twister's okay. And there's also Google templates for Instagram and Twitter. And so, what are you doing really quickly? And I was thinking about World War II, and FDR would probably block Hideki Tojo after, say, Pearl Harbor. And so it was just kind of a fun little check. Okay. So now I've done all the talking and you haven't done any creating, but I would really like to give you a chance to do that. And we have almost 10 minutes left. So here's what I'd love for you to do, because these usually have pretty low floors, pretty high ceilings. I would like you to take the next 5 minutes. We're going to come back at 10:57 and we'll do a high punch last 3 minutes, okay? From our slide deck here, I'm asking you to share out on your own slide, add your own content. And then 1 or more of the following, my friends. Something that you make with one of our things today, 2 takeaways that you think you can see a way that they would go well, questions you might have to follow up, a tool that you can see that might connect well with your lesson, or something else that you'd like, okay? So I'm gonna stop talking. I'll still monitor the chat. In 5 minutes, let's come back together. So please come to the slide deck. I'll put a link to it also in our chat, so it's easy to get to. All right, and let's share. I don't know why I'm running slow here. And I see a question in the chat. We'll get to it in just a second. My slide deck. My slide deck should be in resources, and I will post the link for it again in our chat here. Because yes, we need this slide deck. That one is to the whole set of slides. And that link is to our shared deck. And then I'm gonna look at questions while you all hopefully create. Okay, while people are creating, I hope you can still hear while I'm talking. One of the questions is, when you're planning to use multiple tools, where do I host the links? Some options would be on a Google Doc. If you're not a Google, and then you can share out with a short link. For example, my favorite resource for giving out short links is tinyurl.com. I'll throw that in the chat. And that allows you to have a custom URL, so you could send that link to a document. If you are communicating via email to your students, you could simply put the links into that. If you can share a slide deck, either from any resource, if you can put a link in, that would work. Another option would be to create a Padlet and to put the links on a Padlet. So all of those, a Padlet would actually be a really nice way to do links. So you could have one Padlet that you could work on and organize. Let me think about another way to share links. There's one other one, Wake. I believe it's called WakeJet. Widget. No. Okay. I will find it. We have about 1 more minute for you to be creating. Hopefully people are getting to create or add their ideas. And I am going to close that. And I see some slides being added, which is fantastic. Oh, it's Wakelet, not Wakejet. Okay, friends, Wakelet would be another way to share links with people. If you make a Wakelet, it's kind of like a Padlet. You could organize it by concept and day. Like you could make one Wakelet for the week and you could put your stuff in. That would work too. So James, I hope that's helpful. And Molly, hopefully you got our slide deck. All right, friends, you can keep creating. I know it's 10:57, but let's just click through and you have access to these to share. So Jody's adding, that's awesome. There we go, 4 corners is coming from Chris. Hey, there we go. I love, 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 love. We're seeing some ways we can do this stuff. That's fantastic. Think about your units. Where might you put in what's a character? You know, what can we do? That's awesome. Anything you can add, that's awesome. Yay. All right. So keep adding, my friends. Keep creating. Keep trying. It's all about that, okay? Yay. I'm excited about Big Huge Labs too. I will always be excited about Big Huge Labs. So yeah, it's all about the creating. So I want you to dig in and give it your best little explore and you know, see what we can do. What does our year hold for us? We don't know, but oh, the fake phone. There we go, entrepreneurs. Oh, that'll be fun, Molly. There we go. There we go. Hey, that's awesome. Hey, that's great. That's a great meme too. Love it. Oh, yay. I'm going to guess we're going to get something there soon. Okay. Well, friends, we have just a couple minutes left. You can keep creating. I am totally on board with that. Just a couple of things thoughts to leave you with. Remember those resources. There's a few more listed here. And as you go forward, you know, we're really, really focusing on trying to get our students to engage with the content and to show us what they know and not feel like they're just working through a checklist to finish school. So let's keep making those ways that they can create both informative things and in bigger projects. You know, some of these you might find other applications for besides just formative assessments. So I hope that you all have some good takeaways. I thank you so much for joining our session today. And please reach out if I can help in any way, shape, or form as we go through. I will always be available at wendy.wolf@gmail.com. So thank you.
So thank you everyone for participating. There will be the survey on the survey widget if you could complete that. And this session will be recorded. So thank you very much. Thank you, Wendy.
Thanks. You're welcome. Thank you, everyone.